The medical station floated in the darkness of space like a small moon made of metal and glass. Inside its white halls, doctors and nurses ran back and forth with fear in their eyes. Something terrible had happened, and everyone knew it. Princess Liren lay on a table in the center of the emergency room. Her skin was pale blue, almost white now, and the silver blood that made her people special was leaking from wounds across her body. She was dying, and the best doctors in the galaxy could not save her. Commander Marcus Cole stood near the back of the room. He was a human soldier, nothing special in this place, full of powerful aliens and important politicians. He had been sent here to guard the peace talks between different species, a simple job for a simple man. But now, he watched as everyone around him fell apart with grief. The Scifistories were a proud and ancient race. They had lived among the stars for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. Their blood was not like other blood. It carried light inside it, actual light that made their bodies glow from within. No other species in the galaxy had blood like theirs. No other species could give them blood if they needed it. Princess Liren needed it now. An assassin had attacked her during the peace meeting, stabbing her with a blade that cut through her guards like they were made of paper. The killer had escaped, but the damage was done. The princess was bleeding out, and there was nothing anyone could do. Her father, Emperor of the Scifistories, knelt beside her table. This powerful being who ruled over 12 star systems now looked like a broken old man. Tears of silver ran down his face as he held his daughter's hand. Please, he begged the doctors. There must be something. Anything. The head doctor, a tall creature with 4 arms and sad eyes, shook his head slowly. Your Majesty, her blood type is the rarest among your people. There are only 3 others in your entire empire who could give her blood, and the closest one is 17 hours away. The princess has perhaps 2 hours left. Marcus felt something move in his chest. He did not understand it. He was not a hero. He was just a soldier who followed orders and tried to stay alive. But watching this young woman die while everyone stood around feeling helpless made something inside him wake up. Before he could think about what he was doing, he stepped forward. Test my blood, he said. The room went silent. Every alien in the room turned to look at him like he had lost his mind. A Scifistories admiral actually laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Human blood? The admiral said, Your species carries iron in your blood. It would poison her. You would kill her faster than the assassin did. Marcus knew the admiral was probably right. Human blood was red because of iron. Scifistories blood was silver because of something else entirely, something no human scientist fully understood. Mixing them should be impossible, like mixing fire and water. But the princess opened her eyes. Those eyes were like looking into deep space itself. They held stars and galaxies and colors that Marcus had never seen before. She looked directly at him, and something passed between them that neither of them could explain. Let him try, she whispered. Her voice was weak, but certain. I see something in him, the doctors argued. The admiral protested. The emperor hesitated, looking between his dying daughter and this strange human who had no business being here. But Princess Liren had given a command, and dying or not, she was still royalty. The head doctor finally agreed to run the test. Though everyone could see he thought it was a waste of time. He took a sample of Marcus's blood and put it into a machine that would check if it could work with the princess's blood. The machine made a strange sound. Then it made another strange sound. The doctor hit it with one of his 4 hands, thinking it was broken. It was not broken. The screen displayed a number that made the doctor drop his equipment on the floor. 99.97% compatible. Human blood and Scifistories blood, 2 things that should never work together, were almost perfectly matched. This is impossible, the doctor said. This goes against everything we know about biology. There was no time to ask questions. The princess was still dying. Marcus rolled up his sleeve and sat down next to her table. A nurse connected a tube between his arm and hers, and his dark red blood began to flow toward her silver veins. The moment his blood entered her body, something changed in the room. The air felt different, heavier somehow, like the moment before a storm. The machines around the princess began to beep faster, then slower, then in patterns that made no sense. Marcus felt dizzy. He could feel something pulling at him, not just his blood, but something deeper. It was like part of his soul was flowing through that tube along with the red cells and plasma. He saw flashes of strange things, memories that were not his own. Blue forests under purple skies, cities made of crystal and light, 1,000 years of history passing before his eyes in seconds. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped. The princess's wounds began to close. Not slowly, the way wounds normally heal, but fast. Like watching a video in reverse. Her pale skin regained its soft blue color. The silver blood stopped leaking and started flowing properly again. She opened her eyes once more. Marcus saw that they had changed. They were still beautiful, still full of stars, but now there were new colors mixed in. Gold and amber, human colors, swirling together with her natural silver in patterns that seemed to dance. "What did you do?" she asked, but she was not angry. She sounded amazed. Marcus did not have an answer. He did not know what he had done. He only knew that he had wanted to help, and somehow, against all logic and reason, it had worked. The Emperor stood slowly, staring at Marcus like he was seeing him for the first time. This human, this ordinary soldier from a young and primitive species, just done something that the greatest doctors in the galaxy said was impossible. "What are you?" the Emperor asked. Marcus looked at his own arm, at the small wound where the needle had been. A single drop of red blood sat there, ordinary and simple. "I am just a human," he said. But even as he spoke the words, he knew that something had changed. Something big. Something that would affect not just him and the princess, but the entire galaxy. He just did not know it yet. 3 days passed after the transfusion. Princess Lyran slept for most of that time, her body working hard to understand what had happened to it. Doctors watched her every moment. Taking measurements and running tests that they did not fully understand, Marcus stayed nearby. He could not explain why, but he felt pulled toward her room like a magnet. When he tried to leave the medical wing, he felt uncomfortable and anxious. When he moved closer to her, he felt calm and complete. On the third night, she woke up. The nurse who saw it happen screamed so loud the guards came running with their weapons ready. But there was no danger, only something impossible. Lorraine's eyes had changed completely. Before, they had been pure silver, like all Celestari. Now they swirled with gold and amber mixed into the silver, creating patterns that moved and danced like living things. Anyone who looked into them for too long felt dizzy and strange. It's like they were falling into deep water. Marcus was brought to her room immediately. The moment he walked through the door, both of them gasped. They could feel each other. Not just see or hear, but actually feel. She knew his heart was beating fast. He knew she was confused but not afraid. "What is this?" she asked, pressing her hand against her chest. "I can feel you inside me. Not your blood, but you. Your thoughts? Your feelings." Marcus nodded slowly. "I feel it too. Like there is a string connecting us that was not there before." The doctors had no explanation. They had never seen anything like this. But they kept studying, kept testing, and slowly they began to understand small pieces of what had happened. Human blood, they discovered, was not like other blood in the galaxy. It was a survivor. For millions of years, humans had lived on a dangerous planet full of disease, poison, and death. Their blood had learned to fight everything. It adapted, changed, and evolved faster than any other species they had ever studied. When Marcus's blood entered Lyran's body, it did not just sit there like a guest. It looked around, found things that were broken or weak, and started fixing them. It was like adding a team of tiny builders to her bloodstream, workers who wanted to help and knew exactly how to do it. But that was not all. Human blood also carried memories, not thoughts or words, but feelings and instincts passed down through millions of years. The will to survive. The need to protect others. The strange human habit of running toward danger instead of away from it. When someone needed help, all of these things had flowed into Lyran, along with Marcus's blood. She was still herself, still SciFi Story. But now, she had a piece of humanity living inside her as well. The changes started showing within the first week. Lyrian could suddenly see things she had never seen before. Heat coming off of bodies. Electricity flowing through wires in the walls. The tiny signals that traveled between brain cells when someone was thinking. The world had become bigger and more detailed than she had ever imagined. Her body became faster too. When a nurse dropped a tray of equipment, Lyrian caught it before anyone else even realized it was falling. When she practiced fighting with the guards, she moved like water flowing around stones, always where they did not expect her to be. But the most amazing change was the bond between her and Marcus. They could talk without speaking. Not in words exactly, but in feelings and pictures sent directly from mind to mind. If Marcus was hungry, Lyrian knew it. If Lyrian was worried, Marcus felt it in his own chest. They were two people, but they were also connected in a way that no one had ever been connected before. Word of what had happened spread across the space station within days. A human had saved the Celestari princess with his blood. A human had created a miracle. Representatives from other species began asking questions. Could human blood help them too? There were so many races in the galaxy with problems. The Thessians had a disease that slowly destroyed their nerves. The Korvathi struggled with uncontrollable anger that made them dangerous even to their own families. The Velith were dying out because their bodies could no longer have healthy children. Could human blood fix these things too? The Emperor called Marcus to the throne room. It was a large chamber made of crystal and light, beautiful and cold. Marcus felt very small and very human standing there, before the most powerful being in the Celestari Empire. "What else can your species do?" the Emperor asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes were intense. He was looking at Marcus not as a simple soldier anymore, but as something valuable, something important. Marcus thought carefully before answering. He thought about Earth, about human history. There was so much darkness there. Wars that killed millions, cruelty that made no sense. Hatred between people who looked almost exactly the same, but there was light too. Doctors who traveled to dangerous places to help strangers, firefighters who ran into burning buildings, ordinary people who gave money and time and blood to others they would never meet. "We survive," Marcus finally said, "and we help others survive with us. That is what we do." The Emperor stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Perhaps he understood something important. Perhaps he was just thinking about how to use this human for his own purposes. Marcus could not tell. But somewhere far away, in a dark corner of the galaxy, other beings were watching. They had seen the news of the miracle transfusion. They had watched the reports of the princess's new abilities, and they were afraid. These beings had controlled the galaxy for thousands of years by keeping species separate and weak. A human whose blood could strengthen others was dangerous. A bond between human and Celestari was terrifying. They sent new orders to their agents on the space station. Find the human soldier. Kill him quietly. Make sure no one ever learns what his blood can truly do. The assassins were already on their way, and Marcus, standing in the throne room with no idea of the danger coming for him, simply wondered what would happen next. He would find out soon enough. Marcus had been a soldier for 15 years. He had fought in wars on Mars. He had survived battles that killed better men than him. He knew what it felt like to be hunted. That feeling came back to him on a quiet morning. 3 weeks after he saved the princess, he was walking through the medical wing, when he noticed a technician he did not recognize. The man was cleaning equipment in the corner, but something was wrong. His movements were too careful. His eyes kept moving to Marcus instead of his work. Marcus trusted his instincts. He changed direction and walked toward a different exit. The technician followed. The fight happened in a storage room. The technician was not really a technician. He was a Vexari, a species that could change their shape to look like anyone. When he attacked, his body twisted and stretched, arms becoming longer, fingers becoming sharp like knives. Marcus was ready. 15 years of training took over. He dodged the first strike, grabbed the Vexry's arm, and twisted hard. The assassin hit the wall. Marcus pinned him there with a knife against his throat. "Who sent you?" Marcus demanded. The Vexry laughed. Even trapped, even with a blade ready to end his life, he laughed like Marcus had told a funny joke. "You have no idea what you started, human. The Consortium has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. They keep species separate for a reason. They keep them weak for a reason. And you just gave everyone the key to becoming strong." The Consortium. Marcus had never heard the name before. "What are you talking about?" "Your blood," the assassin said. "It does not just heal. It connects. It unifies. Do you understand how dangerous that is? The Consortium has spent thousands of years making sure no species trusts another. Wars, assassinations, lies upon lies. All to keep everyone fighting each other, instead of looking up and seeing who really controls things." Marcus pressed the knife harder. "Tell me more." But the Vexry just smiled. Too late. His body dissolved into ash and dust. A suicide device hidden inside him had activated, destroying all evidence that he had ever existed. Marcus was left standing alone in the storage room, holding a knife against nothing. He found Liren in her chambers. Through their bond, she had felt his fear and anger during the fight. She was already waiting for him when he arrived. "They are coming for both of us," she said. It was not a question. She had seen fragments of the fight through his eyes, felt the assassin's words through his memory. This Consortium, whoever they are, they see us as a threat. Marcus sat down heavily. His hands were still shaking from the fight. That thing said, "My blood unifies people," that it helps them trust each other. Why would anyone want to stop that? Liren looked at him with her strange new eyes, gold and silver swirling together. Because unity is power. If species start working together, if they start seeing each other as friends instead of enemies, they might start asking questions. They might look at who really controls the trade routes, the weapons, the information. They might demand change. So they keep everyone fighting. Exactly. A galaxy at war with itself does not notice the hands pulling the strings. More attacks came over the following weeks. A bomb exploded in the human quarters of the station, killing 2 of Marcus's fellow soldiers. Someone put poison in the food at a diplomatic dinner, nearly killing 3 ambassadors. A sniper took a shot at Marcus while he walked through a garden, missing his head by inches. But something unexpected began happening too. During one of the attacks, Marcus was badly wounded. His blood spilled on the floor, on the walls, on a Vessian medic who had rushed to help him. The medic had suffered from nerve damage for years, condition that made her hands shake and her thoughts foggy. Within hours of touching Marcus's blood, her shaking stopped. Her thoughts became clear. 20 years of suffering ended because a few drops of human blood had touched her skin. Word spread fast. Corvathi diplomat had been in a coma for months after a stroke. During the chaos of an attack, he accidentally received a bandage that had some of Marcus's blood on it. He woke up the next day, not just alive, but changed. The famous Corvathi rage, the uncontrollable anger that had driven his species to countless wars, felt quieter in him now, balanced. He could still feel strong emotions, but they no longer controlled him. People started talking. In the station's lower levels, in secret meetings, in messages sent across the galaxy, human blood heals. Human blood changes people. Human blood makes them better. Representatives from other species began arriving at the station. Some came officially, asking for research partnerships and medical trials. Others came secretly, begging for just a small sample of human blood to take back to their dying worlds. A Velith mother knelt before Marcus with tears streaming down her face. Her species was going extinct. Their children were born sick, their bodies too weak to survive. She had heard that human blood might save them. "Please," she begged. "I have 3 children. They will all be dead within a year if nothing changes. I am asking you not as a diplomat, but as a mother. Help us." Marcus did not know what to do. He was just one man. His body could only produce so much blood. and every time he gave some away, he became a bigger target for the consortium's assassins. But how could he say no to a mother whose children were dying? Liren found him sitting alone that night, staring out a window at the stars. Through their bond, she felt his exhaustion, his fear, and underneath it all, his desperate desire to help. "You cannot save everyone," she said softly. Sitting beside him, "I know," his voice was tired, "but I can save some. Maybe that is enough." Her skin was cool against his warmth. "We are in this together now. Whatever comes next, we face it as one." Marcus looked at her, this alien princess who had become more important to him than anything else in the universe. Through their bond, he felt her love, her certainty, her courage. "They are going to come for us with everything they have," he said. She smiled, and her eyes sparkled with starlight and gold. "Then we better be ready." Outside the window, the stars continued their endless dance. Somewhere out there, ancient powers were making plans. Ships were being armed. Assassins were being deployed. The war for the future of the galaxy was about to begin. And at the center of it all stood a human soldier and an alien princess. Connected by blood and something much stronger than blood, they were ready. The Galactic Senate had not met in 300 years. There had been no reason. The galaxy ran itself through trade agreements and quiet deals made in back rooms. But the news about human blood had changed everything. 12,000 delegates filled the great chamber on Nexus Prime. They came from every corner of known space, representing species that had been enemies for centuries. They came because they had heard the stories. They came because they wanted answers. Marcus Cole stood at the center of the chamber, feeling very small. He was just a soldier. He did not belong here among emperors and queens and beings who had ruled their worlds for thousands of years. But Liren stood beside him. Through their bond, she sent him calm and courage. She had been trained for moments like this since she was a child. "Honorable delegates," she began, her voice carrying through the vast space, "we come before you not as threats, but as proof. Proof that the walls between our species are not natural. They were built, and they can be torn down." She waved her hand, and holographic displays appeared in the air above them. Charts and graphs and medical data collected from dozens of worlds. The evidence was clear. Human blood could help almost any species in the galaxy. "The humans have something in their blood that no other species has," Liren explained. "Their bodies learned to survive on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Disease, poison, radiation, extreme heat, and cold. Their blood carries the memory of how to fight all of these things. And when their blood enters other bodies, it teaches those bodies how to survive too." The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates cheered and clapped. Others shouted angry words about lies and manipulation. A Corvithi general demanded to know if this was some kind of human trick to take over the galaxy. Marcus stepped forward. His voice was not as strong or beautiful as Liren's, but it was honest. "I am not a scientist or a politician," he said. "I am a soldier. 3 months ago I gave my blood to save a dying princess because I could not stand by and watch her die. I did not know it would cause all of this. I did not want power or fame. I just wanted to help." He looked around the chamber at all the different faces, all the different species. Some looked at him with hope. Others looked at him with fear. "Humans are not perfect," Marcus continued. "We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history. Wars, cruelty, hatred. But we have also done something else. We have helped each other. Strangers helping strangers for no reason except that it is right. That is also in our blood. That is what we can offer the galaxy." For a moment, there was silence. Then the lights went out, when emergency power came back on. Everyone looked up and saw something terrifying. 3 massive warships had appeared above the planet, ships so old that no one in the chamber recognized their design. They were made of black metal and strange crystals, and they radiated power like dark suns. A hologram appeared above the Senate floor. The being it showed was beautiful and terrible at the same time. It looked like a statue made of light and crystal, with no face that Marcus could understand. "We are the first," it said. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. We achieved perfection 10,000 years before your ancestors crawled from the mud. We have maintained peace in this galaxy by keeping species separate. Unity leads to chaos. Unity leads to war. Unity leads to extinction. Crystalline figure turned its attention directly to Marcus. He felt cold, like someone had poured ice water through his veins. Your species is a virus, the first continued. You adapt. You spread. You change everything you touch. You cannot be allowed to continue. Liren stepped in front of Marcus, her new eyes blazing with silver and gold fire. You are afraid of us. You have controlled this galaxy for thousands of years by keeping everyone weak and divided. Now you see that changing, and it terrifies you. We are not afraid. We are protecting order. We are protecting stability. We are protecting the galaxy from itself. You are protecting your power, Liren said. Nothing more. The first flickered, just slightly. It was the first sign of emotion Marcus had seen from the ancient being. You are an abomination, it said to Liren. Human and Celestari merged together. You represent everything we have worked to prevent. Okay. A new voice spoke then, coming from the chamber doors. Then you should have worked harder. Everyone turned to look. Standing at the entrance were hundreds of humans. Soldiers, doctors, scientists, teachers. They had arrived through emergency transport gates, bypassing all security. And they were not alone. Mixed among them were Veshans, Korvathi, Velith, and a dozen other species. Admiral Chen, commander of Earth's space fleet, walked forward. She was a small woman with gray hair and hard eyes. The consortia made a mistake, she said. You thought humans were alone, isolated, easy to control. In the 3 months since Commander Cole's transfusion became public knowledge, we have received 17,000 requests from across the galaxy. Requests for help. Requests for partnership. Requests to work together. She smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. You have spent 10,000 years keeping species apart. We have spent 3 months bringing them together, and we are just getting started. The first's crystalline form cracked slightly. You cannot defeat us in war. Our technology is beyond your understanding. Marcus found his voice again. Your technology is 10,000 years old. It has not changed because you have not changed. You have been sitting in the dark, controlling everything, never growing or learning or adapting. He stepped forward, standing next to Liren and Admiral Chen. Humans adapt. It is what we do. It is what our blood does. And now that blood is flowing through friends and allies across the galaxy, we are not alone anymore. Neither is anyone else. The delegates in the chamber began to stand. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Species that had been enemies for centuries stood side by side, looking up at the consortium warships with defiance in their eyes. The first stared at them all for a long moment. Then you have chosen war, it said finally. And you will learn why we have ruled for 10,000 years. The hologram disappeared. The warships above began to move into attack formation. Marcus looked at Liren. Through their bond, he felt her fear, her determination, her love. Together? He asked. She took his hand. Together. The war for the future of the galaxy had begun. The war lasted 18 months. It was the most terrible and the most beautiful thing the galaxy had ever seen. The consortium had ships and weapons that were 10,000 years old. They had technology that could destroy entire planets. They had ruled so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to be challenged, but they had also forgotten how to change. Their battle plans were ancient. Their strategies were designed to fight species that worked alone, that did not trust each other, that could be turned against their neighbors with simple lies. They did not know how to fight an enemy that stood together. Human blood became the foundation of a new kind of alliance. Across hundreds of worlds, people volunteered for transfusions. They shared not just blood but understanding. A Korvathi warrior who received human blood would dream of Earth, of human struggles and human triumphs. He would wake up knowing, truly knowing. what humans had survived to become who they were, and humans who spent time with other species began to understand them too. The connection worked both ways. Soldiers who had once seen aliens as strange and threatening now saw them as brothers and sisters. Different bodies, different worlds, but the same desire to live, to love, to protect their families. The consortium did not understand this. They could not understand it. They had been alone at the top for so long that the idea of genuine cooperation seemed like madness. There were dark times during the war. Whole cities were destroyed. Good people died fighting against enemies who seemed impossible to defeat. Marcus lost friends. Lyran lost subjects she had known since childhood. Every victory came with a cost that sometimes felt too heavy to bear, but they kept fighting. They kept standing up. Slowly, the tide began to turn. The consortium's ancient ships were powerful, but they were also old. They broke down in ways that the first had forgotten how to repair. Their weapons were devastating, but they had been designed to fight divided enemies. It's not unified fleets that protected each other, and the alliance kept growing. Species that had stayed neutral at the beginning of the war began to join. They had seen what the consortium truly was, not protectors of peace, but jailers who had kept the galaxy in chains for 10,000 years. The final battle happened above Earth. The consortium had chosen this location on purpose. They wanted to destroy the human homeworld as a final message to the galaxy. If they could not rule, they would at least take their revenge on the species that had ruined everything. But when their fleet arrived at Earth, they found something unexpected. Ships from 17 different species filled the space around the blue planet. Veshan medical cruisers, Corvathi war vessels, Velith transports that had been converted into fighters, Celestar crystal ships that gleamed like jewels against the black of space, and at the center of the defensive line, the flagship Unity. With Marcus Cole and Lyran Verthalis standing together on its bridge, the first appeared as a hologram on the bridge. Its crystalline form looked damaged now, cracked and flickering. Why would you share this? It demanded, "Your blood is the most valuable thing in the galaxy. You could have used it to control everyone. You could have made them dependent on you. You could have ruled." Marcus looked at the alien being that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years. "Because that is not who we are," he said simply. "We survived on Earth by helping each other. We did not become strong by stepping on others. We became strong by lifting others up. That is what our blood remembers. That is what it teaches. You will fall. Everything falls eventually. Maybe, but we will fall together, and we will rise together. That is the human way." The first stared at him for a long moment. Its ancient mind tried to understand what Marcus was saying, but it could not. 10,000 years of thinking only about power and control had made it blind to anything else. "Then die with your principles," it said, and disappeared. The battle was fierce. Consortium ships unleashed weapons that tore holes in space itself. Alliance vessels exploded in balls of fire and light. For hours, it seemed like the ancient rulers might actually win. But then something happened that no one had predicted. The first's flagship began to fail. Not from weapons fire, but from within. The crystalline beings who had ruled the consortium had forgotten one simple truth. Power requires people to believe in it. And their people, the countless servants and soldiers who had followed them for 10,000 years, had begun to doubt. They had seen the alliance. They had seen species that should be enemies fighting side by side, dying for each other, trusting each other. They had seen humans giving their blood freely to anyone who needed it, asking nothing in return. And they had started to wonder if there might be a better way. Ships began to stop fighting. Consortium soldiers began to surrender. The first screamed commands that no one followed anymore in the end. The great and terrible consortium fell, not to superior weapons or clever strategies. It fell because the beings it had controlled for 10,000 years finally saw that they had a choice. They chose hope over fear. 50 years later, Marcus Cole stood in a garden on the planet New Valanthos. His hair was gray now, and his body moved more slowly than it once had. But his eyes were still clear, and his heart was still strong. A child ran through the flowers toward him. She was beautiful in a way that no species had ever been before. She had her mother's silver skin with hints of her father's warmth beneath it. Her eyes swirled with silver and gold, just like Lorraine's. "Grandfather," she called, "come see what I found." Marcus smiled and followed her through the garden. She had found a nest of small creatures, fragile things with wings like crystal. She handled them gently, carefully, treating them like treasures. Lirin joined him, taking his hand as they watched their granddaughter. Their bond was still strong after all these years, still connecting them across any distance. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly. "Giving so much of yourself to the galaxy?" Marcus thought about the question. He thought about the blood he had donated, the battles he had fought, the years he had spent helping build a new civilization from the ashes of the old. Then he watched his granddaughter carefully return the small creatures to their nest, handling them like they were the most precious things in the universe. "Not for a second," he said. In the sky above, ships from 100 worlds passed by in peaceful flight. The old walls between species were falling, slowly but surely. There was still work to do. There would always be work to do. But for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy was looking forward instead of backward. It had all started with a single act of kindness, a human soldier giving his blood to save a dying princess. Such a small thing, such a human thing, and it had changed everything. In the great histories that would be written about this time, scholars would debate about politics and technology and the rise and fall of empires. But the simple truth was much simpler than all of that. Humans had survived their dangerous world by helping each other. When they finally reached the stars, they brought that lesson with them. They shared it freely with anyone who would listen. And the galaxy, slowly but surely, learned to listen. That was the power of human blood. Not the proteins or the adaptations or the genetic memories. It was the love. It had always been the love.